Hare Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girbharadari Gopi Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girbharadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girbharadari Gopi Janavallabha Girbharadari Jaisacinandana Prajajanaranjana Jaisacinandana Prajajanaranjana Jaisacinandana Prajajanaranjana Jaisacinandana Prajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Go Bhakta-vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Go Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Radhanath, Radha Radhanath, Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Jaya Gaura Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Go Premanandi, Jayam Vishnupad, Paramasa Parivrajaka Charya Stostra Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Bhaktivedanta Purpose ki, Srila Veda Vyasadev ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. Lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 51. Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the Kumaras, 4th canto, chapter 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nasta Prayasya Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we'll read the word. Phalam Brahmani Sanyasya Nirvasanga Samahitaha Karma Adyaksham Cha Manvana Atmanam Prakrite Param Phalam Brahmani Sanyasya Phalam Brahmani Sanyasya Nirvishanga Samahitaha Nirvishanga Samahitaha Karmahadyaksham cha manavana. Karmadyaksham cha manvana. Atmanam prakrite param. Phalam brahmani sanyasya. Nirvisanga samahitaha. Karmahadyaksham cha manvana. Atmanam prakrite param. Phalam brahmani sanyasya. Nirvishanga samahitaha. Karmahadyaksham cha manvana. Atmanam prakrite param. Prabhus. Phalam brahmani sanyasya. Nirvisanga samahitaha. Karmadyaksham cha manvana. Atmanam prakrite param. Param balam. Nirvasanga samayitaha. Karmadyaksham cha manvana. Atmanam prakrite param. Phalam brahmani sanyasya. Nirvisanga samayitaha. Karmadyaksham samanavana. Atmanam prakrite param. Phalam brahmani sanyasya. Nirvishanga samayitaha. Karmadyaksham Atmanam prakrite param. Phalam, result. Brahmani, in the absolute truth. Sanyasya, giving up. Nirvisanga, without being contaminated. Samayitaha, completely dedicated. Karma, activity. Adyaksham, superintendent. Cha, hand. Manmanaha, always thinking of. Atmanam, the supersoul. Prakrite, of material nature. Param, transcendental. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Prithu completely dedicated himself to be an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, transcendental to material nature. Consequently, all the fruits of his activities were dedicated to the Lord, and he always thought of himself as the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of everything. Purport is quite a long purport. It's 2 pages, almost over 2 pages. The life and dedication of Maharaj Prithu in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Godhead serve as a good example of karma yoga. The term karma yoga is often used in Bhagavad Gita, and herein Maharaj Prithu is given a practical example of what karma yoga actually is. The first requirement for the proper execution of karma yoga is given herein. Phalam brahmani sanyasya, or vinyayasya. One must give the fruits of the activities to the Supreme Brahman, Para-Brahman, Krishna. By doing so, one actually situates himself in the renounced order of life. Sannyas, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.2, giving up the fruits of one's activities to the Supreme Person of Godhead is called sannyas. Kamyanam karmanam nyasam sanyasam kavayo vidhu. Sarva karma phala tyagam praus tyagam vichakshana. To give up the results of all activities is called renunciation, tyag, by the wise, and the state is called the renounced order of life, sannyas, by great learned men. Although he was living as a householder, Prithu Maharaj was actually in the renounced order of life, sannyas. This will be clearer in the following verses. The word nirvasanga, uncontaminated, is very significant because Maharaj Prithu was not attached to the results of his activities. In the material world, a person is always thinking of the proprietorship of everything he accumulates or works for. When the fruits of one's activities are rendered to the service of the Lord, one is actually practicing karma yoga. Anyone who practices karma yoga, anyone can practice karma yoga, but it is especially easy for the householder who can install the deity of the Lord in the home and worship him according to the methods of bhakti yoga. This method includes 9 items: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping the deity, praying, carrying out orders, serving Krishna as friend, and sacrificing everything for him. Prabhupada quotes from the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu, smaranam pada sevanam, archanam vandanam dasyam, sakyam hatmani vedanam. Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 5, text 23. These methods of karma yoga and bhakti yoga are being broadcast all over the world by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Anyone can learn these methods simply by following the examples of the members of the society. In one's home or in a temple, the deity is considered the proprietor of everything, and everyone is considered the deity's eternal servant. The Lord is transcendental, for he is not part of the material creation. The words prakriti parama used in this verse because everything within this material world is created by the eternal material energy of the Lord. The Lord himself is not a creation of this material energy. The Lord is the supreme superintendent of all material creations, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Madhyakshena prakriti suyate sa chara charam etunanena kaunteya jagad viparivatate. This material nature is working under my direction, son of Kunti, producing all the moving and non-moving beings. And by its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. All material changes and material progress taking place by the wonderful interaction of matter are under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Events in the material world are not taking place blindly. If one always remains a servant of Krishna and engages everything in his service, one is accepted as a Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means a liberated soul. Even during his lifetime within the material world, general liberation takes place after one gives up his body. But one who lives according to the example of Prithu Maharaj is liberated even in this lifetime. In Krishna consciousness, the results of one's activities depends on the will of the Supreme Person. Indeed, in all cases, the results is not dependent on one's own personal dexterity, but is completely dependent on the will of the Supreme. This is the real significance of phalam brahmani sannyasya. A soul dedicated to the service of the Lord should never think of himself as the personal proprietor or the superintendent. A dedicated devotee should prosecute the work according to the rules and regulations described in devotional service. The results of his activities are completely dependent on the supreme will of the Lord. I'll read the translation. Maharaj Prithu completely dedicated himself to be an eternal servant of the Supreme Person of Godhead, transcendental to material nature. Consequently, all the results, all the fruits of his activities were dedicated to the Lord, and he always thought of himself as the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of everything. Om Jnana Timrindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumalitam Jaina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunath Hanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripri Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyahevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In Bhagavad Gita, right in the beginning, in the second chapter, Krishna is saying to Arjuna, Durena yavaram karma. Durena yavaram karma. He says, keep all abominable activities far away. How? By practicing devotional service. What is considered abominable? Anything short of being Krishna conscious is considered abominable. Of not connecting with Krishna in any activities we do. Even when Brahma was first getting the instructions from Krishna, the 4 verses there describe it's called the Chatur Shloki Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of the slokis, Krishna is saying, he's telling Brahma, whatever you see in the material world, that is no connection to me, consider it to be my illusory energy. So he's emphasizing again the process of karma yoga, connecting our activities right in the beginning of creation. Brahma was the first recipient of that knowledge, the first created being. So right at that point, Krishna is postulating this process of devotion, only means of becoming free from the entanglement of this material world. And he speaks of this, the living entity, means the human being especially, how he can elevate himself through this process. Jai Sri Sri Radharanath ki, Sri Giriraj Govardhan, Sri Gauranga Prabhu Gaur Hari ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada ki. So he likens the living entity's advancement like climbing a ladder. It's called the yoga ladder. And right in the beginning, or the lower rungs of this ladder, he says when human beings have no authority, they're not accustomed to following authority or some authorized process then they are like animals. It's called animal life, simply gratifying one's senses, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But at some point one climbs this ladder, then the higher stages of the ladder. It's called karma kandya. Karma kandya means following the rules and regulations or prescribed for one's living in this material world. And the karma kandya deals with many aspects of how one can attain worshipping demigods and attaining the heavenly planets. The heavenly planet, one can elevate himself. But the heavenly planets are all still within the material world. Right up to Brahma Loka. It's still within the material realm. So, so one has to still not just stay in that realm of karma khandya. And Krishna alludes to that in many verses. He says, he describes it as the flowery words of the Vedas, like the Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, the Atharva Veda. All these promote this type of heavenly worship or worship prescribed duties one has to follow if one is not, or especially on the platform of being in the human platform. But still, he's saying these will not give you ultimate happiness. It will not give you the ultimate happiness. Because the material world is full of, although we may be allured by all the beauty or the richness or so-called happiness, but all these come with a price. And they come, they are dualities. They are dualities. We want happiness, but it doesn't come just happiness. Happiness comes with some distress, isn't? We want heat, but heat comes with cold. Like that, heat and cold. And these are always changing. They never, they never constant. And the living entity actually is looking for that kind of happiness that will give him that lasting pleasure or that lasting happiness, fulfillment of his material desires. But we can see it's insatiable. We cannot satiate our material desires in the material world. Try as we may, isn't we always desiring so many things? And therefore the karma kanda means that we're making use of the Vedas for our own sense gratification. Basically, that's what it means. Making use of the Vedas for our own sense gratification. Because the Vedas deal in the mode of goodness, pure goodness, goodness. The Vedas catering for those in the mode of passion and those in the lower modes. The Vedas are there catering for all types. Those who in the black hearts who perform black magic. It's all part coming from the Vedas also. It's there. In the 9th chapter, Prabhupada, the different destination. Krishna is saying those who worship ghosts and spirits will go to the ghosts and spirits. Those who worship demigods will go to the planet of the demigods. But those who worship me exclusively will come to me. So there's so many, Krishna's given us so many solutions to how those would tell with buddhi. Using the buddhi means karma yoga and buddhi yoga, they are consistent. They are not different. Karma yoga means activity. Yoga means we're connecting that activity. Yoga means to link up. To link up with the Supreme. Not some, in modern times they use this type of yoga is commercialized, isn't it? You have yoga studios and all kinds of gymnastics. But that's not the goal. That's all body toning and keeping fit for more sense gratification. But the real term yoga means to link up, to elevate our consciousness to higher, to the ultimate goal of attaining the Supreme Personality of God. So there's different levels of yoga. Karma yoga intensifies, it becomes nishkam karma. And then bhakti. Bhakti is the culmination, the highest step on this ladder. So one has to climb this ladder, not just stay. Generally we see in the material world, or we may come from such backgrounds of Orthodox Hinduism, we most of us are coming from such backgrounds. We're following all the rules and prescribed duties of, isn't Hindus worshipping demigods, and we're very steeped in that. And they think that is the goal. That is the goal of life, to have all these things. But it's not giving the solution. It's not giving, and we become frustrated. Even if we have all these desires, they're very frustrating. We lose them at some point, because that is the nature of this world. We have something today and we lose it. It's like that. Loss and gain is there. Even we may want a nice, very nice family, is a nice house. But all these things are temporary. As time goes, we get separated by time, the time factor. And these all just become memories, isn't? Or list of names that we knew once, isn't? We can remember just by some memory of them. They're gone. Prabhupada will say like that. You reflect on his, where are they now? It's just, all I have is just memories and a list of names. So that's what we end up with, isn't? Regrets. So, therefore, intelligence, Durena Yavaram, Krishna is saying, right at the beginning, he's instructing Arjuna, keep all this abominable far by devotional service. By devotional service. In that way, we give up this fruitive mentality. And we read in here, Prithu Maharaj, isn't he? Executed his duty in this perfectly. And Prithu is glorified because Prabhupada mentions the 9 hungers of devotion, isn't? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Saivanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Sakyam, Dasyam, Hatmani Vedam. And for each of these, there's a personality that's been glorified. You may know about these things, but it's nice to always recap these things. Shravanam, the Shravanam, he said Maharaj Parikshit, one of the great devotees of the Lord, the last of the Pandavas, was almost, yes, Monday we were listening to this class, how the Brahmastra was sent to kill him, the last, and he survived. Krishna to enter into the womb of Uttara to protect Maharaj Parikshit. And Parikshit means examiner. The name Parikshit means examiner. So when he came out, he was wondering, he was searching for that person. He was searching for that person who actually protected him. Examiner. Parikshit Maharaj. So we know he's a great Mahabhagavat, and how he ruled with such dexterity also. Later we'll just, I was trying to see so many other great kings who are exemplary in their practice of Vaishnava culture. And as leaders, they were not only just leaders of kings, they were sadhus, rishis. The king is a rishi, a saintly person, Raja Rishi. They're not just ordinary kings who sit on the throne and rule with a iron fist. No, they were very, and they were loved by the citizens. Even, and the king made sure everyone was protected. Everyone means even the animals, the other living entities beside the human, were all protected. That was his duty. And he would go from time to time on his horse and see to the welfare of the people, till he came to see one very terrible scene. And he came across this scene where the cow was crying and the bull was being beaten, 3 legs beaten, blood. And he saw this personality dressed like in the garb of a king, a Sudra in the guise of a king. And he became very, very angry. Immediately he wanted to kill that king, that so-called pretender. So this is how the Kali Yuga was ushered in. The personality Kali had come to destabilize the authority, especially the Supreme Personality of God. It is the ultimate authority. So he's come to misrepresent or cheat the people in general. So Maharaj Parikshit was very, very staunch on that. His kingdom was free from vice. And he wanted to keep it like that. And this personality Kali was pleading for his life. And Maharaj Parikshit said, no, I can't keep you in this kingdom. You'll have to go elsewhere, where these things are, where there's gold, where there's prostitution, where sinful activities. You take refuge there. In this way, Kali was spared to go. And this is how this Kali Yuga it manifested due to this. So in this, we see the present age is so bereft, or it's so satiated by the personality in this Kali Yuga. Everything is very, very lopsided. We see the kings or leaders of society are being led by Sudras. You see that? As 5,000 years ago, we read from these Vedic scriptures how wonderful it was, how great, magnanimous these leaders were. That they are glorified. Yeah. They are glorified. So Maharaj Parikshit is glorified because he was cursed to death. We know the story. And in 7 days. So he gave up the kingdom, renounced the kingdom. And he took the dress of a mendicant and went to see out the last days of his life on the banks of the river. And at that time, Sukadeva Goswami comes along, and this is how the Bhagavatam was spoken. Maharaj Parikshit wanted to hear the question, what does one do at the time of death? What should one do at the time of death? Generally, when time of death is very confusing for people. Generally, it's a very confusing time. All the senses are disarrayed. The organs are all failing. How can one think clearly? One cannot. But Maharaj Parikshit he wanted to hear. And therefore he's glorified for that. For 7 days, 7 nights, with rapt attention, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam, non-stop, fasting, not eating anything, not drinking anything, for 7 days, 7 nights. In that way, he got free just by hearing. He got liberated. And of course, the person who spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, he is glorified because he shab kirtanam. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam, we just celebrated the appearance of Nishingadev. And Prahlad Maharaj is glorified because he always remembered Vishnu. He never forgot Vishnu, even in times of so many challenges he had to go through, facing death by his own father who wanted to kill him. But he always remembered Vishnu Smaranam. And then this Pada Sevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And Lakshmi Devi is glorified for that. Lakshmi Devi, she never leaves the lotus feet. She's always at the lotus feet of Vishnu. Then there's Archanam. This is Prithu Maharaj. He's glorified for that because he introduced elaborate temple worship according to the Archana principles of deity worship. He's glorified for that. Of course, Maharaj Prithu is the son of Vena. You know, Vena is a contrast, isn't? Vena was such a terrible king that he, in his time, he stopped all the Brahmanical activities, and there was no sacrifice being performed, and as a result, the demigods weren't appeased, and they did not send rain, and there was drought, and in this drought, and there's no crops growing, there was famine, and people were starving, and the weather was scorching, terrible. But one good thing was he says the criminals were fleeing for their lives. We need a Vena in this lifetime, I think, for this government, that all the criminals flee. They were fleeing out of fear. But in the end, the Brahmanas, they consorted and they conspired and they said, no, we have to get rid of this king. And they got rid of him, and they churned these bones by some mystic process. And this is how Maharaj Prithu appeared. But Prithu, of course, there was a whole transformation. People are very happy to have him as the king, as the leader, and he says he milked the heart. He milked the heart is like a metaphorical. The heart is by the cow. The cow represents heart. Isn't Bhumi Devi milking the heart for all its resources, isn't? And this is how everything prospered again. There was abundance of crops and different people were happy. Rains were falling in time. The weather was good. So many auspicious things came. Good leaders bring auspiciousness, isn't? Especially when they are pure at heart. They bring auspiciousness to the planet. So we can pray like that, that we get somebody who can be in the caliber of these kings, isn't? To become the president or the executive head of state, so that people can again revive their consciousness and make this world much better than what it is presently. So the different kings, I was looking at, comparatively how each one contributed in their way. Like the notable kings who exemplified the qualities and precepts of King Prithu. In this one King Kulashekar, wonderful prayers you may have read in the Mukunda Mala Stotra, the Halvas. The Halvas were very powerful from South India, the Halvas. offers wonderful prayers to the Supreme Person Godhead. And he's praying like this: My Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stems of the lotus feet of your Lordship and be locked up in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? Yeah. So Prabhupada comments on that verse. He says, Maharaj Kulashekar, a great devotee, prays, My dear Lord, just now I am quite healthy, and it is better that I die immediately while I have good health, while I can think clearly, that the swan of my mind can seek entrance to the stem of your lotus feet. The metaphor, Prabhupada says, the metaphor used here, because the swan is a bird of the water, represent the swan, takes pleasure in digging into the lotus flowers. Its sporting proclivity is to enter into the lotus flowers. Maharaj Kulashekar says to the Lord, Now my mind is undisturbed, and I'm quite healthy. If I die immediately thinking of you, of your lotus feet, then I'm sure that my performance of your devotional service will become perfect. But if I have to wait for my natural death, then I do not know what will happen, because at that time, the bodily functions will be disrupted. My throat will be choked, and I don't know whether I shall be able to chant your name. Better let me die immediately. Wonderful praise, isn't it? You can. Are we prepared to do that while in the prime of our life? Do that? No, of course, generally, we want to see out our life right till the end. But there's no guarantee we will, think of Krishna. Therefore, the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is very, very pertinent to that, attaining the Supreme. And Prabhupada quotes that, except from there, he's taken about King Kulashekar, what at the time of death, Ante kale chamam eva, at the end, what will we do? What will we be thinking of? Ante kale chamam eva, at the end, what will we do? What will we be thinking of? Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam. That famous verse there. Whatever one thinks of, that's what he will attain. So while, of course, the Mahabhagavats, we see in the life of Srila Prabhupada, right till the end, he was preaching. Even his body was so emaciated. He was just bone. And he could barely hear him speak. And they had a microphone next to him. Or some listening device that he was taping. And he was preaching. He's saying, this body is finished. But it was crystal clear in his consciousness. Preaching. Crystal clear. The final lesson, it's called, if you read the pastime of Srila Prabhupada's Leela, the final lesson, how to live this world. Then the other king, in the 5th canto, Maharaj Rishabdev, he had 100 sons. And what he's telling them, don't get married. Don't get into household life. Generally, we will encourage our children, get a life, get out, go and get a life. But now he's saying here, where is that? Yeah, Rishabdev says, he told his sons, "My dear boys," this is from the 5th canto, "of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form of life should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even to the ox and dogs that even eat stool. One should engage in penances and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever." So our devotional, whatever we engage in devotional activities, it's eternal. Like Krishna is describing how this process of it's such a powerful process. In the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, "Na bikrama na shoshti." In this endeavor, pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayato mayato bayat. Says in this endeavor, what this endeavor is, he's describing the process of devotional service. There is no loss or diminution. And whatever little one does can save him from the most dangerous type of fear. Bayam means fear. And that fear is that we may waste this human form we may not get this human form of life again if we're not using it in the service of the Lord. That is the danger. We may regress and not necessarily get the human form of life again. That is the biggest danger. Not about death. Even worse than that, more painful than death, you may not get the human form of life again. And that means you have to go all the way down to all the species and work yourself up again to come ultimately. That may take millions and millions of lifetimes to get back the human form of life. So we should understand that this human form of life is a boon. It's a special boon. It's a responsibility to that we can use it in the service of Krishna and to become self-realized. Like these kings, they were all very realized personalities, self-realized personalities. Another great personality, Maharaj Ambarish, we have in the 9th canto, how he used every part of his body, walking his feet, walking to the temple, his body in offering obeisance, his head bowing down before the deity, in washing the floor of the temple. A king, he's the king. He showed so much humility. And just by his humility, he conquered one very powerful mystic yogi, Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was offended by somehow, unknowingly, to Maharaj Ambarish, that he had come to his palace. Maharaj Ambarish was just fasting and he was about to break his fast. And he was thinking, but somehow Durvasa Muni has this, this just rocking somewhere without notice. And he doesn't come alone, he comes with a whole entourage and he's very demanding. He wants food on the hour, and if you don't, he'll curse you. This is how Draupadi got benediction, Kunti got benediction, because they were he was very pleased by the attitude of service. But this time, Mariampi wasn't aware of the coming of, and he drank water, and Durvasa Muni, by mystic, he understood that was being, generally when a host comes to your house, you meant to feed them first before you. So he felt offended and he summoned one demon to go and kill. That's how angry he was. That's how offended he was to kill Maharaj Ambarish. But the devotee of the Lord is always protected, isn't Krishna in 931? He says, my devotee never perishes. He's telling Arjuna, you declared boldly, my devotee never perishes. And Krishna will always protect his devotee, will always protect our devotional service, even if we fall away, or sometimes in the verse before that, apichet surara charo, even if one commits the most abominable act, one may fall down due to, and Prabhupada in the Prabhupada says, the material energy is very strong. It is very, very stringent. And sometimes we're waging war. When we become devotees, we're waging war with Maya. It's a war. Now in war there must be casualties. Isn't it? So sometimes devotees under some weakness will succumb to the dictates of Maya, and this way they may fall down. But Prabhupada also makes a point that there's a difference between accidental fall down and not premeditated fall down. We may premeditate something and think, I will chant Hare Krishna and isn't neutralize it, but that's a seventh offense, isn't committing offenses on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is offensive. Krishna won't forgive you. So we think like that. We may, but when accidentally somebody falls and he becomes very remorseful, we have to feel sorry genuinely that we did something, and we pray to Krishna, reinstate us back. And Krishna is saying this, sadhu reva samantavaya. Very emphatically he says, he's still a sadhu. He's still a devotee, even if he commits the most abominable act. The tendency sometimes we may, see somebody in Maya, we may avoid them or isolate them, but that's not Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying, Krishna is always very merciful like that. He gives a chance. As long as that devotee becomes remorseful and regrets, yes, I've done this, and he reinstates himself into it, and he comes back. Again, Prabhupada says in the end he says, we should not use this verse as an excuse to do all sorts of nonsense and think Krishna will forgive us. He says that's a low-grade devotee. He is a low-grade devotee. Still a devotee, but he's low-grade, low class. So, the process of devotional service again, it's so potent that even a little performed, can at least give us human birth again, even if we fall away. But what to speak of those who, how much more will Krishna give them special mercy, isn't those who are constantly, like we read in this caliber of these great souls, these great kings. And so we can take shelter of this Bhagavatam through the agency of these great, hearing just their Leela, and make our life following in their footsteps. Of course, we cannot imitate, but we can follow. We can follow. Ma jano yena gata sapanta. And we have to follow in the footsteps of great Mahajans. There's 12 Mahajans, but of course, there's many others who also follow in that line of being Mahajans. Yes, there's many. Like here we read these great souls. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments? Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.